Hewitt Show. Good morning, Dr. Oz. How are you?
Good morning. Things are going well here. Lots to discuss.
All right, I got a long list. I got to start, though, with a caller from yesterday. I was talking about you being on, and he's angry that you kept your dual citizenship and that you served in the Turkish army. I looked it up. I've seen your answer. You're going to surrender your dual citizenship. You served in the Turkish army in order to keep your Turkish citizenship to be able to take care of your mom in Turkey. Why is that still an issue, Dr. Oz? It's asked and answered.
I tell you, it's raised by Democratic opponents. These are, clearly attacks that are designed to undermine confidence in my ability to serve. But there's no issue here. I think I can love my mom and love my country as well. Turkey was a NATO country when I was a young man. We got permission for me to serve so that I could be able to visit my family. You can't even go back in those days to the country if you didn't serve. And like a lot of countries, there's mandatory service. But I'm proud of what I've done in my life. I'm a product of the American dream. My father was born on a dirt floor in Turkey and educated on scholarship. And America very wisely said, we need people from other countries who've been educated, recruited my dad to come here. And my dad knew the deal was simple. You work your tail off, serve your fellow American, you'll be an American. And he succeeded. And thanks to his being embraced by America, I've had an unbelievable life. And it's one of the reasons I want to run and be the next senator from Pennsylvania is because I think some Americans have forgotten the brilliance of the American dream, the promise that the world has held high because America made it feasible. And I want to make sure that grandeur remains.
That is a great answer, a direct answer to a direct question. Now let's ask a much harder one. Why, oh, did you ever leave Ohio? I'm a Buckeye, and you went from Ohio to Pennsylvania. I just don't buy that.
My father was training in Ohio, so I only lived in Ohio for a few days. We went right from the hospital to the airport. I grew up just south of Philadelphia, but I ended up going to med school at Penn and business school in Philly as well at Wharton, and it really changed my life. Living in Philadelphia, which at the time was it's a good time for the city. It was safe. I could ride my bike to the hospital. Now you can't do that. Philadelphia has the highest homicide rate it's ever had, highest of any major city, and it's all because of decisions made by radical left prosecutors and the lieutenant governor who I'm running against, who's taken a very firm stance in support of criminals over their victims. And it's sort of stunning to me. You want to release 1/3 of all prisoners from jails. You don't believe in life sentences, no matter what you did. You have the passionate desire to legalize all drugs. In Philadelphia right now, we have the largest open-air drug market in the country. People like zombies wandering around, destroying city blocks, criminal activities rampant. The police have been undermined completely. They're demoralized. No one wants to sign up. You don't have enough. I was endorsed by the Fraternal Order of Police recently. It was unanimous. They were so angry about my opponent and his weak on crime, soft on crime positions that have destroyed parts of the Commonwealth. And this is the kind of move that the Democratic Party, the far left part of it, I don't think the average Democrat in any way endorses this. But the radical elements of the Democratic Party who have hijacked that party are taking us down this road to lawlessness, and we have to turn that around.
Now, to the audience, I say contrast my first two questions, one lighthearted, one very serious, Dr. Oz's responses, which he quite well used to get to his core themes, with last night's conversation between my old colleague from NBC, Stephanie Ruhle, and John Fetterman. Let's play cut number 16, please. The last cut that I've got. Yeah, 16.
How do you serve all Pennsylvania voters? It's a very big state, right? Think about Western PA in Pittsburgh, where the economy was thriving before COVID, filled with tech companies and universities. There's probably all sorts of people there thrilled about student debt forgiveness. But go 30 minutes outside to Beaver County, where there's likely voters who are saying, I just want a good kindergarten. I want a good 5th grade. How do you serve both voters? We've got a complicated economy. People want very different things.
I just think people need to understand and be able to recognize, what their lives are really like. And we believe and we know that we actually do that. Very important too. And, living in Western Pennsylvania, living across the street, actually where we're having this interview right now, right across from a steel mill, we have to understand that we all can't work at Google or we can't all be working at a hospital. We have to make sure that we are making more stuff here in Pennsylvania and in America. And we also have to make sure that we address to an obscene minimum wage. And how can we now, running for the Senate, and you own 10 homes and you are not unwilling to raise a minimum wage above $7.25 an hour? I mean,
All right, so
we all know
Dr.
that
Oz,
Dr. Oz
that is
does
a
live in.
non-responsive answer to a convoluted question that contained the answer to the question and was basically a gimme. He missed a gimme putt. I know you have sympathy for stroke victims. You're a heart surgeon, for goodness sake. What did you make of that exchange in that interview last night?
I have been saying for 2 months now, when I realized that John Fetterman wasn't leaving his home, he never answered a question on the campaign trail. Still to this day, has not answered a question on the campaign trail. That was the first interview he's done. He also denied the debates that I've agreed to. These are debates, 5 of them offered by major media companies. And I think that answer reveals one of the reasons. He has a very difficult time talking about policy. Now, this is evident prior to his stroke. It's not new. He likes to just attack people as individuals, but he won't actually address the problems that people are facing in their homes. So if I'm trying to make sense of this, I'd say, listen, John Fetterman, I'm a physician who has tremendous compassion for what it's like to recover from a stroke. I will work with you in any way possible to get you comfortable on a debate stage, actually answering real substantive questions like the one that was just asked there, which, as you say, the answer was in the question. She's trying to help you. His wife was next to him, by the way, to help him. I get it. I think these are all smart moves to make if you've had a stroke. But if the real reason that you're not appearing on a debate stage has nothing to do with your health, but actually it's all about the fact you don't want to own your radical left positions that you have taken throughout your career, and the deeper pathology that's evident when you look at why you believe these things are the case, that's a separate issue, and you have to address that. That question is a good example. He has stood in front of audiences and called for a moratorium on fracking. He calls fracking a stain on Pennsylvania. If you take away Pennsylvania's energy production, we're probably number 2 in the country in energy, then you actually hurt these communities terribly. Manufacturing drops off. You unemploy people who have wonderful jobs now. You give no hope to high school students who could take trades and learn to work in these facilities. And instead, they just leave. And if you really want to address the challenges that we're facing in the Commonwealth, don't make draconian statements like you've made so often on Twitter that undermine confidence that you actually care about what makes the machinery of Pennsylvania work.
You know, I grew up.
The kinds of topics. Yeah,
I grew up 7 miles from Pennsylvania, Dr. Oz, in Warren, Ohio, 7 miles from Sharon. I know Western PA, and I know they need fracking. I just can't. I know why he won't talk about it, because he's just out of step with people in Western PA. Let me go back to. I want to make this offer as well. Stephanie and I have worked together a long time. NBC and Salem will co-host. If NBC and Fetterman agrees, I'm sure you will with me. I will co-host a debate with Stephanie Rule. That way, John Fetterman will feel comfortable with the host. He'll know that I'm fair. You comfortable with me, you know that I'm fair. And we'll do it for an hour on their network and our network. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, I want democracy to work. For democracy to function, voters have to hear their candidates, and they have to understand the motivation behind those candidates' positions and actually be clear on how they defend them. Listen, I have strong beliefs in family values that drive many of my core decisions. I want to explain that to an audience. I'm sure John Fetterman has equal positions on the other side. Have him defend his positions on fracking or crime, or the fact he wants to open border with sanctuary cities, or the fact he wants to abolish private health care. Things he said, by the way, because Bernie Sanders is, they've endorsed each other and call each other the 2 most progressive candidates in America. I get it. If you've stated these positions, defend them. I'll do the same on my side. Let's stop talking about some of the ridiculous things he brings up in all these interviews, and actually talk about things that are plaguing people, the dominant topics, as they're just trying to get through their day jobs. And I think your offer is very kind. He obfuscates, he distracts the voter from the real issues. This debate fiasco next week is a good example. He claimed when he never answered any of the requests. These are 5 major media companies you know and the listeners would know.
WKDK. Yeah, KDK. Yeah.
KDK, right, in Pittsburgh. It's a major station. They actually hosted the senatorial debate last time when Pat Toomey was running. And they're respected, and they have a high-quality host who would agree to do it. So I agreed, we don't have any preconditions. We said, fine, I'll do it. So they graded, they're supposed to be next Tuesday. He never answered. Finally, on Tuesday, he said he couldn't get it on his schedule. He never leaves his home. What are you talking about? Then he shifted to, I'm being too mean to him on his stroke. I just told everyone what my statement had always been. I have compassion. I understand. I'll work with you. Tell me what I can do to make it easier or safer for you. And yes, the campaigns are hitting each other hard on these topics, and his campaign and my campaign staff are, going at each other. They can play those necessary political angles. But I'm just trying as a doctor to meet John Fetterman at a place where the audience, the voter, can hear what we stand for.
All John
I
Fetterman has to
strongly
do right now is say yes to Stephanie Roll and Hugh Hewitt, Salem and NBC. It's fair, it's balanced, it will be fair. Can I go to one more attack on you before I ask you about student loans? But they're connected. Every time anybody from Team Fetterman goes after you, they bring up 10 houses. Look, I understand real estate investing. I understand you're wealthy. I don't think it ever works to attack people who are successful by dint of hard work and brilliance. And so I think it's crazy for them to do it, but it's particularly crazy after a student loan step on a rake moment. So what do you think of the student loans? What do you think of the attacks on your wealth?
I'm proud that although my father was born on a dirt floor, my family was able to lift ourselves up. I want the exact same thing for every voter in Pennsylvania, in fact, across America. I want every small businessman to become a big businessman, which is what they want to be. Lift us all up. The tide will raise all boats. Yes, I invest in real estate. A lot of people who are able to make money, one of the smartest things they'll do is buy property because it's safer than stocks. Pieces of paper can change in value. You can't keep track of it. Land and different. But he's critical of me and, of course, pretends that they're houses. No one's going to live in 10 houses. But that's a narrative. And there are many similar ones like that he pulls up. But tell me about something substantive, like the student loan issue. That's a place where he should have, I think, if he truly cared about the average American, and particularly the average person in Western Pennsylvania, he would have said, no, this is bad. You're having plumbers pay tuitions of lawyers. It doesn't make sense for someone who couldn't go to college, couldn't afford, didn't want to, and picked a different path in life to be taxed extra to pay the bills of someone who didn't bother either paying off their bills or pursuing a career where they could have. Life has challenges. We have obligations. There's consequences to your decisions. What about all the college graduates who paid their debt off? I still remember ripping out the last little coupon of my student loan booklet and sending it in. He instead takes a strong position that these people need $10,000 of debt instead of dealing with the core issue, which is why our university is so expensive right now.
Dr. Oz, can I pause there? I told this story yesterday. I remember the fetching Mrs. Hewitt, and I remember taking the last coupon on my University of Michigan Law School loan and paying it off and saying, done, and feeling satisfied. I think this is a disaster, but we got 1 minute left. I want to get to the border. Does the border matter to Pennsylvanians? Not the northern border, but the southern border.
Huge. Every state's a border state because of fentanyl. Here's what's happening. When the John Fettermans of the world, boldly state they want an open border with sanctuary cities, what they're really doing is giving money to the cartels. Because the cartels, Mexican cartels, are running human trafficking operations. When we have an open border, they'll run hundreds of thousands of people across it, make money, take the money, buy fentanyl from China, and bring that across with the human beings. Now we've got so much fentanyl pouring into the country. We had 100,000 people die last year, mostly young people. That's 4 times more than under the age of 50 who died from COVID. And in Pennsylvania, we're top 5 in the country in fentanyl deaths. It is destroying our rural areas. We have to shut the border down. And if we do shut the border down, it opens up an opportunity to increase legal immigration, like my father was able to benefit from. Bring the right people into the country, control the border. It's an obligation we have to our people.
Dr. Oz, thank you for a very straightforward, long interview, longer than Stephanie Roll did with Fetterman. No edits. It was live, not live to tape, not edited. Dr. Oz, I appreciate your joining me. Come back often. Pennsylvania race in the center of the country's political heart. Thank you, Dr. Oz. I'll be right back. Joined now by Joe O'Day, who's going to be the next senator from Colorado. I love talking to Joe. We found out about him early on from my friends in Colorado, and he's got the wind at his back. Good morning, Joe. Welcome back to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Hugh, hey, thanks so much for having me on. Really love coming on with you, man.
Well, we cover Colorado very, very closely. I've got so many friends back to Wayne Allard and Bill. And I just want people to know that you're the real deal. What do you think of the student loan forgiveness?
Well, I can be honest with you. It's not forgiveness. It's a transfer. I mean, who's paying for it? Working Americans. That's who's going to end up paying the bill. I went to a safety meeting at my company, had about 40 employees there the other morning, and was asking them how they felt about paying somebody else's tuition. I didn't know if I was going to get out of there alive, Hugh. They're really upset. This is working Americans that made the decision to not go to school, and now they got to pay somebody else's tuition. It's just wrong. It's just wrong at every level.
Joe Day, when I came over to Colorado to teach for Bill Armstrong at Colorado Christian University, those kids had jobs. Those kids were working. Some of them had loans, and they were paying them off even as they worked in the college, and they were 5- and 6-year students. This is so unconstitutional as well as being so unfair.
I'm sure they're gonna have a vote on it in Congress. Somebody's gonna stop this, but it's just outrageous that Biden thinks he can get away with this, and it's pandering to voters. I mean, that's the most ridiculous thing. Here we are, 60 days out from an election, and he's giving away money trying to garner up some votes.
So Michael Bennet is your opponent, the invisible senator. He kind of tried to distance himself, sort of, from the president's program on student loans. The president didn't even mention it in Pennsylvania on Tuesday night. He's embarrassed by it. Are you going to debate Michael Bennet? Because you're going to win that debate on the issues. He votes with Joe Biden every single time he votes.
Yeah, we've reached out. We've challenged him to, I think, 4 or 5 different places that we said we'd meet him. Heck, I'll meet him at a bar downtown Denver. Let's get it on and talk about the issues. And that's what working Americans here in Colorado want to hear. They want to talk about what we're going to do about inflation. They want to talk about what we're going to do about price of gas, price of milk, price of groceries. They want to know what's going to happen with this crime that's out of control here. And I've challenged them, but it's been crickets.
Let's talk about the crime in Denver. I'm on in Denver on 710 KNUS. Denver is a problem when it comes to going downtown. When I was there 5 years ago, it was even a little bit sketchy then, but now I understand it's really quite bad.
Well, COVID's done a number on the businesses downtown, and a lot of them have left. And the reason they've left is because it's not safe, and they don't want to come back until we get some things in place. We got a border that's leaking like a sieve. We got record numbers of fentanyl, human trafficking, and drug cartels coming straight up I-25, and they're in our neighborhoods now. They're killing our kids. We've lost 1,700 Colorado kids here in the last year to fentanyl and meth. It's unprecedented, and we've got to do something. Biden and Bennett, they've got it wrong. We've got to close this border down and get crime under control.
Last question, Joe Day. I loved it the first time you came on. You said you employed 300 Colorado families. Democrats noticed that. They tried to take you out in the primary. They don't want to run against a job creator. Are you hanging on to that message? Are you telling people you created jobs? Michael Bennet is killing them?
You bet. I mean, the Democrats create dependency. We've been creating opportunity for years, and that's what we'll continue to do. They're coming after my company next. They've already started bashing us. It's unbelievable. I've created such a team over there at CEI, and they do such great work. Pick on me. Don't pick on my company.
What is the website for the campaign, Joe, if people want to help you?
Hugh, thanks again. It's joeodea.com. That's JOEODEA.com. The only thing keeping me from being the next U.S. Senator of Colorado is resources. I can use all the help I can get. We're putting all that money on TV to get our message out.
He is a regular Joe. He is a great candidate. I think he's going to be the next senator in the long tradition of Colorado, sending folks who will represent folks well. Joe Day, keep coming back between now and November. Great to talk to you again. Thank you, sir.
Thanks again, Hugh.
Back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. Imagine my surprise when I sit down opposite a Chinese-American candidate for Congress in Wyoming to interview him last week. And his parents fled Hong Kong a few years back, and he's grown up in Rhode Island. And out of Alan Fung's mouth comes the Rhode Island accent I have known and loved since I went to school in Boston. He's a Patriots fan. He's a Celtics fan. He is, God love him, a Red Sox fan. And he sounds like every Rhode Islander I've ever known. He can't say you. He says Yui. But Alan Fung, welcome. You're going to be the next congressman from Rhode Island. It's great to speak with you.
Hey, good morning, Hugh. Very nice to be on the show. And yes, I do drop my R's, and you can clearly tell I'm from the Northeast and Rhode Island in particular. So happy to be on the show.
Great to talk to you. And you know what? I want to ask you to just introduce yourself to the audience. We're big in Maine. We're big in New Hampshire. I don't think we're so big in Rhode Island, but I want people to know they got to support you because we can win this seat. We being Republicans, I'm a Republican. We can win this seat. And Rhode Island's one. Tell people how to find you and why you're running against uphill in a deep blue state.
Yeah. First of all, they can find out more information on my website, fungforri.com, FUNGFORRI.com. But I've been mayor of the largest city in the district, the second largest in the state, Cranston, Rhode Island, for 12 years, and left because of term limits, but left with an 82% approval rating, Q. I took a city that, when I first got into office, was on the brink of financial ruin, turned it around, made it one of the best cities to live in America. Before that, I was a state prosecutor in the narcotics and organized crime unit where I was battling a lot of corruption in the state, a lot of bad guys. As you know, Hugh, Rhode Island has, its share of shenanigans, but, proud to be part of that public service, cleaning things up. Worked in private sector too for a great company in MetLife. Who doesn't love Snoopy? So I've done a lot, in my both public service and private career. Now I'm running for Congress, and you're right. We have a great opportunity to take this seat in this deep blue state and turn it red. It happened just a few short months ago because Congressman Jim Langevin, who's been sitting in that seat, for 22 years, decided that he's not going to run for re-election, up and about retired. Right now, I'm leading in every single poll, private and even public polling by that liberal Boston Globe has me up nearly 7 to 11 points over all potential Democratic primary opponents. Now, as you know, Hugh, I'm, a full NRCC young gun, and we're going to take this seat back.
Alan, you're going to be in Congress a long time, and Democrats will probably come after you in 10 years, but by then you'll be a 10-year veteran, and they won't be able to draw you out of it. They'll give up. So talk to us about where the district is. Rhode Island's not that big, but I want to know if you've got Jamestown, if you've got Newport. Where is the first?
It's the second, Hugh. It's
second. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. It's the western half of the state, and it's actually the better half because for some of your listeners, they might not be aware that I was the Republican nominee for governor the past couple cycles and did extremely well in this district, and in fact beat the current Commerce Secretary, former Governor Raimondo, in this district by 4 points and passed, losing in close elections to her. But so this district fits out perfectly for me because it goes from partly the northern part of the state as high as Burrillville, which is, extremely, red country, all the way down to encompasses, Cranston, my home city, a small part of Providence, Warwick, which is home to our airport, another urban core area, all the way down to Connecticut line in Westerly, where Taylor Swift even has a summer home. So it's basically a western half of the state, but this district is a Democratic +4, leans Democrat, one that Biden may have won by 13 points, but a district that, like I said before, I've done extremely well with during my past runs for governor because being part of that urban core, people know who I am. I still have 95%, name recognition, not just in the district, but statewide. So this is one where we can win and will win.
So Alan Fung, it's so expensive. I'm up in Mid-Coast, Maine for a few more weeks, and I was watching TV last night. Maggie Hassan is advertising in Mid-Coast, Maine, because that's what you have to do. Boston is such an expensive market. You have to buy Maine and Boston in order to cover New Hampshire. I assume you've got to buy Boston, Rhode Island, maybe Connecticut to cover Rhode Island. It's got to be an expensive campaign.
Hugh, it is one of the cheapest dates in the country.
Really?
And we don't have to buy Boston. We don't have to buy Hartford. We just have to buy Providence in the media market. So, and in fact, we just launched our first commercial, introductory commercial, outlining and reminding people of all the great things I did in Cranston and letting people know when I'm going to fight for them for when I'm down in Congress, energy independence, lowering this cost of inflation because the spending's out of control. These are some of the issues I've tackled, spending issues, turning that city from, the dark red, days that it had into putting it into the black financially. We're on that same type of mission. And, our message is going to resonate because we only have to buy Providence.
Well, that's interesting because then a donor to Alan Fung buys a lot.
It buys substantially. And that's why it's critically important to love to have the support from your listeners. Please jump onto our website. Like I said before, it's fungforri.com, FUNGFORRI.com. They can donate, find out more because, yes, we are a relatively cheap date. And by the way, the Nationals, as you know, the NRCC is, all in. I'm a full young gun. I'm part of Leader McCarthy's Take Back the House race, and this is a top-tier race because, as you noted, what's sad about what's going on, not just in Rhode Island, but all across New England right now, Hugh, there's not a single Republican in the House in all of New England. This seat is a winnable seat. It's been, on Leader McCarthy's radar. He's been talking about this race. You heard him out in Wyoming,
Yeah.
but all across the country. This is one we're going to, take back and send a message, Democrats, that people are frustrated, even in deep blue states, deep blue districts like, ours, where we're going to make sure that people's voices are heard. Because as I've been out on the campaign trail, the biggest issue that I hear about, including from light blue Democrats, those JFK Democrats that feel that they've been left behind, is the economy, inflation. Because, when you're even seeing right now, school just started for many of our major cities, including in Cranston this week. As you're going back to school, just filling up your kid's backpack was so much more painful this year. And never mind the price for groceries, gas, a night out at the restaurant. These are all the major stress points that are impacting people all across America from all walks of life. Democrat, Republican, Independent, I don't care what party you're in. This is why we're going to take back the seat. I've got the right prescription to help solve these problems. That's why, with this cheap date that we have in Rhode Island, we're going to be a player and we're going to win the seat back.
Alan, I've interviewed so many candidates over 30 years. Affability is the key ingredient, and you've got that. But you also have to have an issue set. You've got the inflation thing down. Do the student loan bailout, how does that play in Rhode Island?
Well, here's the thing. Yesterday, the Democrats had their primary debate, because some of your listeners might not know. We have a late primary system, September 13th. So now the Democrats are fighting it amongst themselves. What's even great for me is I don't have a primary, so I'm just out there knocking on doors, talking to people. But even amongst the Democrats, they were split on, Biden's initiative to kind of hand out and give money, this constant spending, reckless spending they do, and try to, just give dollars away to reduce student loans. There's better ways to do it. And this is what I would support. We've got to take a look at why these costs are so high, first and foremost. That's got to be the priority. College prices, university prices are out of control. Do we really need a rock wall on every single campus, Hugh? Second of all, there's other ways that we can tackle this issue. One that's fair to all, so that, I have a friend who's a Democrat, Hugh. He's actually an elected Democrat in one of our towns in the district. He's ticked off. He's got two daughters going to colleges, great colleges, Boston College and Fairfield University. But you know what? With him, he's trying to do things a responsible way. He's taken the loans out on his mortgage. So, because of the cheaper interest rate. So guys like him, families like his, are taking it on the chin. They get no relief whatsoever. This Democratic plan is leaving everyone high and dry, different people high and dry. It's not fair.
Oh, it's the publishers. I call it the Publishers Clearinghouse Program, because check your mail, you might be a winner. And some people will win, but most people lose. So I'm glad to hear you're confident on that. Last question, fuel oil. I'm up in Mid-Coast Maine right now. I want to get out of here before I have to put fuel in that tank, because it costs. People say, oh, gas prices are dropping. Wait until they see their heating oil bill, Alan Fung.
Yeah, up in the Northeast, including in Rhode Island, we're in that same spot that you are up in Maine. How can families, seniors on fixed income cope with drastically higher costs of not just home heating oil that's coming in? Hugh, I topped off my tank in April, and it was $1,000 to top off my tank in April. What's it going to be coming for the fall and the winter? That's going to be the shock that's going to send many families making difficult decisions about, are we going to heat our home? How are we going to feed our families? Or the high prescription drug costs. Never mind, we got shocking news from Rhode Island Energy that energy prices for some people are going to be up to 50% more because of high natural gas prices. This is insanity, and it's got to stop. That's why I'm running, because we've got to make sure that we're energy independent, not relying upon these unstable regimes across the globe that, by the way, is probably sending us dirtier, fuels back into our country. So what's wrong with, American oil on American soil? That's one of the issues I'm going to be pushing.
Fung for RI. Fung Forri. Alan Fung, thank you. Keep coming back. Red Sox aside. They're not going to beat the Guardians this year. Thank you, Alan. Back America. Lori Chavez-DeRemer, Oregon 5. She is going to be a new congresswoman from the West Coast. Good morning, Lori. Thank you for joining me.
Good morning, Hugh.
Let's start with where your website is, because when you get done talking in 5 minutes, people are going to want to contribute to your campaign.
Lori Chavez-DeRemer.com.
Okay, you're going to have to, that's going to have to be gone through a couple of times. Lori Chavez-DeRemer.com.
That's right, sir.
All right,
Lori
give us
DeRemer.
the bio on Lori Chavez-DeRemer.com.
Well, I'll tell you, Hugh, I've lived in Oregon for 22 years, a mom of beautiful twin girls, business owner for 18 years, and, I spent a lot of time in local government, mayor for 8 years of the city of Happy Valley, Oregon.
So you are sparkling on the campaign trail, and you're an effective elected official. What's the district like? Where is Oregon's 5th so that the audience can understand?
For sure. Right comes out of the Portland metro area, Clackamas County. We have Marion County, Lynn County. It heads south, which if people haven't been to the beautiful state of Oregon, then we get to go over the beautiful Cascades over into central Oregon, where we pick up Bend, Sisters, Sun River. With the redistricting, it is the most unique district in the state of Oregon, and it's exciting to be representing it.
Is it a D plus or an R plus district, Lori Chavez-DeRemer?
D+1, Hugh.
Oh, very competitive.
Very competitive, very exciting. And, the 7-term incumbent lost his primary. So I'm up against really an extreme left-leaning radical who I don't believe represents Oregon's 5th district very well and will not.
Well, you're center right. I want to know how the student loan bailout is playing in Oregon.
Well, we've been focusing on for years, and I did it as mayor as well, talking about kids who are interested in maybe not going to college, people who want to get into the trades, people who are interested in just starting their own businesses. And I think that this is going to pick, winners and losers. And that's frustrating for me because this is going to be saddled on the backs of the kids who didn't go to college. And then we're going to be paying this for a very long time, right on the heels of every other failed policy that the Biden administration has pushed forward. And I'm not sure how we're going to strap Oregon's 5th district with another $300 billion that the federal government just passed. I mean, we're already a state that's in debt. And how are we going to continue, to do that? It just doesn't make sense to most people.
And up on the northern part of the West Coast, does the border matter as much as it does in San Diego and Arizona?
I just went to the border, and we're talking about immediate crossings, no, but I'll tell you what does matter, the fentanyl crisis. We're seeing an extreme influx of drugs here. Oregon is a decriminalized drug state that they just passed, and that's just an open market for these cartels to peddle these drugs to our teens and to our kids and our families. I would think moms across this country, as much as they did in the education system, are not going to want to see their kids dying in the streets. And that's a real concern for a lot of people in Oregon's 5th and in Oregon as a whole. On top of the inflation crisis, on top of the gas prices, on top of the food crisis, on top of the shortage of water, the fires are affecting us now as well in Oregon's 5th. We're a big timber state, and it's very concerning that these fires keep burning down our forests.
Lori Chavez-DeRemer, I want to thank you for joining me early in the morning in Oregon. One more time, the website is Lori, Lori, Chavez-DeRemer, DeRemeer. And do you have the resources to go ahead?
Lori Chavez-DeRemer, Lori, Chavez-DeRemer.
Oh, there's only one E. Oh, my goodness. I'm glad you corrected me. DeRemer. And do you have the resources you need to compete?
We're working hard every single day. We're getting, voters are calling in. People are sending in money. They want to flip this seat because they're tired of the same old. Biden, Jamie McLeod-Skinner will be in lockstep for more failed policies. So we're working hard. I'm asking for people, if they want to flip this seat in Oregon and flip the House, we can do this together.
Lori Chavez-DeRemer, one E in DeRemer, DeRemer. Thank you. Come back.